As educators, we're supposed to know it all, right? Yeah, but that's impossible. Try as we might, the best we can do is ask better questions so that we're able to see more clearly. And that's our topic today on this episode of the Educators Among Us podcast.
Welcome to the Educators Among Us podcast, where we share motivational messages and inspiring stories for and about educators. Your host, Scott Barron, is author of the critically acclaimed book, Love 'Em and Lead 'Em, and provides powerful insights and wisdom for those who heed the call to teach, coach, lead, and serve at all levels of education.
This is Scott Barron, and I'm honored to be your host for the Educators Among Us podcast. We get to share perspective and maybe a little bit of joy for those who serve in all levels of education. It doesn't matter for teachers or coaches or staff members or board members or volunteers or substitute teachers or whatever your role is. We're very grateful for you because you touch the lives of many people. Sometimes your influence isn't known for a long time. You may never know until perhaps an eternity, but your influence changes lives. That's what schools do. That's what educators do. And it's a privilege to be a part of this work in this, as we say, a calling to be invested in other people, to give them a pathway forward, to provide a learning experience that helps them discover not only facts and knowledge, but also truth and wisdom and purpose. That's the joy of our work, and that's why we have this podcast, is to provide that perspective that hopefully gives you that little bit of extra energy and oomph to be able to find a way through, to sometimes overcome the barriers, but also to be your best. Right. And learning and growing as educators, we have certain times during the season where we have an opportunity to even do a little more reflection, to think through things. And that's been a theme for, in the United States, this is sort of that summer time where there's a chance to maybe to step back for a moment and get ready for the new year. It kicks off usually in August or September, and then it goes, and it's relentless. And regardless of where you are around the world, that feeling where you just have to go, and you have to step in, and you have to do what it takes. And part of that requires us to not only know our content or our job or the tasks or whatever, but also to know us, right? We have to know where we are and who we are. And there's certain key questions that the most effective educators, they sustain that curiosity. They want to know even more about themselves. We call it self-intelligence, and it's been proven to be, in our research, a vital element, not actually the number one characteristic of highly effective educators, is they do have that curiosity and that desire to know more about them. They understand and seek to learn more about how they're changing, because they are, right? We're all changing. We're all going through different phases of life. None of us are the same. We're changing physiologically and spiritually and mentally and all the rest. And so we have to have enough of a curiosity and as well as a humility to want to listen, to get the feedback. And that's what our theme is for today, is to be able to maybe consider, where are those opportunities, and how do we make sure that we're able to listen more intently and more carefully to those feedback loops. We have to confront ourselves, said Maya Angelou. We have to confront ourselves. And do we like what we see in the mirror? When we look there, do we like it? And according to our light, according to our understanding, according to our courage, we will have to say yay or nay and rise. Right. And that's sort of the key point is to rise, to understand that those are feedback loops and they're important, but we can't plan backwards. We can only plan forwards. We have to be able to anticipate and know where things are going and to stay sharp. Now, sharp That's an interesting thing, right? We used to have pencil sharpeners in our classrooms, right? They were a necessity for well-equipped classrooms. You had to have one, and sometimes they made a mess. I mean, sometimes there was someone responsible for emptying the pencil sharpener back in the day, and boy, you could get those shavings all over the place, and it was a real mess. But they provided also a good excuse. Going to the pencil sharpener provided a good excuse for a kid like me who had a little bit of a hyperactive mind to get up and to move around a little, right? So sometimes you'd learn to break your pencil maybe intentionally, right? So you can get up and go to the pencil sharpener, right? Demand for these devices, of course, has faded, but staying sharp and prepared, it's vital for us, right? Honing our intelligence and our influence, that requires often updating our self-knowledge. And that's the key, right? Highly effective educators remain reflective. They remain curious about their habits and their results, right? They look for the feedback loops. They actually embrace the messenger, as we say. They like to hear and understand what's working, what's not working, what adjustments need to be made. This feedback is vital as we persistently and honestly advance our life-changing abilities. That's a part of our own personal growth plan. And it's sort of something to consider as you're moving into this new season is actually creating your own individualized excellence or education plan, right? We have our own IEP, so to speak, where we're trying to grow. And that's an important part of kind of considerations as we have that time to reflect and to think things through, is to consider what's the feedback that we should be listening to? What are the sources of that? And how do we make adjustments? Judge a man by his questions rather than by his answers, said Voltaire. And that's the key driver here, right? What questions are we asking? Because asking better questions, it gives an accurate image that isn't enhanced by our own artificial intelligence, right? I mean, we all have an AI in our own minds, and sometimes the things that we think about, the stories that we've been telling ourselves, sometimes they're not really true. They're fabricated. It's artificial. And it gets uncomfortable at times, but we understand the importance of self-exploration by rigorously correcting assumptions, by clarifying our intentions and checking our behaviors. We are willing to get that feedback because we're not perfect. None of us have been perfected. We have a chance to grow. And sustaining that curiosity, asking the better questions, that's a very important part of growing as an educator. What is it like to be on the other side of me? How will I adjust my habits to grow? What does success look like in this next season? Right? What are my goals? What are my habits? What are the things that I want to work on? How will I measure progress? And those are choices we get to make. And so often those are sort of vaguely defined, and vague expectations are seldom accomplished, right? But we want to be able to express things far more specifically, and then, of course, be able to have a partner that holds us accountable to that. What decision would I make if I wasn't afraid? How am I limiting me and my team by my fears? These are important questions to consider for an educator. For now, we see only a reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part. Then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. That's 1 Corinthians 13:12, right? We know that we are limited. We are limited by our perspective. Sometimes we feel like we're looking through this vast expanse when we're only looking through a small pinhole, right? And we need the help of others that we can trust, that give us feedback, that give us perspective, that help us grow, right? So the challenge is to rise up using self-development questions to anchor growth and enable adaptive intelligence, right? So that we're able to thrive even when the people and the conditions around us are changing so quickly. And we know that's the era of education we're in now, is that things are changing so fast. But we know we can anchor ourselves in those things that are true, that are wise, that are even not changing. And that's a vital part of our self-development, is continuing to ask those hard questions about us. Rather than being stuck in misplaced confidence, we value curiosity and listening. Humility, respect, and mindfulness are proven elements of educational excellence. That's true for individual educators, for us, but also for our whole program, our whole school or school system, right? If we can maintain that humility, that ability to listen, to learn, to not have all the answers, a respect for each other, respect for each other's gifts and the strengths that we all bring to the table, as well as a mindfulness, that ability to think back, to reflect, to learn, and to grow. We're at our best when we willingly acknowledge that we don't have those answers. So we constantly and consistently strive to be adaptively aware and thoroughly teachable. Those are the characteristics of highly effective educators. So, ask better questions this week, my friend, keeping an open mind and heart to see more clearly as you become the best version of you, being able to keep looking ahead, being able to keep looking deeper, being able to keep looking for more. Thank you. Really. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for your commitment to being an educator, to being a part of the school or the system or wherever you are. Thank you for the contributions that you make. You make a difference, and we're very thankful for your commitment to this work and to this calling. And as you're going through this week, a coaching question to consider as you go through each day: did I do my best to see more clearly today? Did I do my best to see more clearly today? Love him and lead him, my friend. This is Scott.
Thank you for joining us for the Educators Among Us podcast and for your courageous commitment to this noble calling. We get you and the challenges of this work. To stay connected with this community, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and weekly encouragement at educatorsamongus.com.